Well, good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shinryu, and I'm just really happy to be here with you once again for our year-end retreat, to see such a large crowd and to especially see a lot of new faces, people who are joining us for the first time or coming to Garrison for the first time. And it just feels wonderful to be together. I feel like we're off to a very good start. There are always kinks that we're working out, and that's part of the process. I think the spaces are feeling warmer and warmer as we go. So I hope that continues. But I especially appreciate the effort of those of you who are new to Village Zendo, new to Zen retreat, new to any kind of retreat. Because I know that it is a lot to walk in to a new community cold and have to sort of pick up on what the culture is and what the signals are and the forms, and it can be a lot. Even if you've been doing this for many years, it can be a lot to walk into retreat again. So my hat is off to those of you who are doing this, who are new and doing this with us, and just to say how much I appreciate your effort. For all of us, for those who are new, for those who've done this many times before, the easiest way in, the easiest transition is to follow the guidelines that our Shuso gave us last night. So that would include keeping the noble silence, not gawking at what other people are doing, but staying within yourself, following the schedule. All of these things are really, really important and what allow the whole thing to unfold. So we often say that we follow the guidelines, and we use all of these forms, which those of you who are new are picking up on and may be bewildered by. But we use these forms and the guidelines to try to harmonize together as a community and to try to cultivate energy of attention. And so that's something that unfolds over the course of the week. But there is another dimension to it, which is really important, and that is that actually, when we follow the guidelines and when we use the forms, actually, in that very moment, we are living harmony, and there is concentration. So if you just catch yourself in one moment and realize, oh, I need to be silent now, or I need to just turn my attention inwards, or I need to just get to the Zendo 5 minutes early. That one moment is a moment in which you are in harmony and you are awake. So this is why we say that each of these moments of practice are themselves awakening. And this is the fundamental point. Each moment of practice is a moment of awakening. And so that all of the efforts that you make to practice, moment to moment and day to day, are manifesting your awakened mind. So, we are entering our Ango study period from now until the middle of March, and our Shuso Ryugen selected some study texts for us to work with. One of them is Dogen, the 13th century medieval Japanese teacher, his instructions to the cook. And then we also have Bernie Glassman's instructions to the cook, which is a contemporary variation on Dogen. So I hope you've had a chance to look at them. If you haven't, you can find them, I think, with your registration materials. You can find them online. And one of the other guidelines that our Shuso didn't mention last night, but traditionally we would say no reading on retreat, no writing on retreat, except read the study text. So I want to encourage you to read the study text these days. And I'd like to start with Dogen's text today. This was written in 1237, and most of the famous writings of Dogen are from his Treasury of the True Dharma Eye, the Shobogenzo, but this one is not. This is actually from a different collection of texts, which are called the Eihei Shingi, which are his regulations for the Eiheiji monastery that he founded. And so the Tenzo Kyokun, the instructions for the cook, is, I think, the first and a really beautiful example of what these regulations or guidelines can be like. So it's incredibly rich. There's so much you can discover in it. But I'm just going to focus on 2 points this morning, which come from the very beginning of the text, but which I think are important for us here today and on this retreat. So Dogen starts out referring to the Chanyuan Shingi, the regulations for Zen monasteries that were written in 1102. Supposedly they were based on an earlier set of regulations by Master Hakujo or Baizhang, who taught in the 8th century. But actually, the scholars have never found Baizhang's regulations, and they suspect actually they never existed. But in any case, Dogen refers to this earlier set of regulations. And I'm going to read you one short passage from the beginning of the text. And he says, "From ancient times, the position of tenzo, or head cook, has been assigned to senior monks who have the way-seeking mind, eminent persons who have aroused the thought of awakening. In general, the job of cook involves a wholehearted pursuit of the way. If one lacks the way-seeking mind, it will be nothing but a vain struggle and hardship, without benefit in the end. The rules of purity for Chan monasteries says, quote, one should maintain a way-seeking mind, make adjustments in accord with the occasion, and see to it that the great assembly receive what is necessary and is at ease." Okay. So, one of the points that I wanted to highlight here is this, when he says the job of the cook involves wholehearted pursuit of the way. The term he uses is bendo, and here do comes from Chinese Dao. It means the way, and ben is an interesting word which means wholehearted, or it's been translated as diligent, all-consuming, all of your energy, not holding back. So the way, the wholehearted way, the way of not holding back. And after Dogen returned to Japan from China, where he'd been in training, the first text he wrote was about Zazen meditation, the Fukan Zazengi. And then the second text he wrote was a kind of general presentation of practice as he understood it. And it's a text called the Bendo Wa, which is a discourse on how to practice the way wholeheartedly. So he says at the beginning of the Bendo Wa, the wholehearted practice of the way that I'm talking about allows all things to exist in enlightenment and enables us to live out oneness in the path of emancipation. So what would be an example of this Zendo? There's a story that I remembered that I haven't been able to find a source for it. So I looked it up online, and I came across an online talk that mentions this story, and it was by Shinryu Roshi. I don't know, I got it from somewhere. I'm not sure where. But the story is, and there are different variations of it, but the story is there was a monk who had heard there's a great teacher on this one mountaintop and this one temple. So he is climbing the mountain to get to the temple. He's nearing the top, and he sees on the mountain stream coming down from the peak a cabbage leaf that's floating down the water. And he thinks, oh no, this surely cannot be a good place to practice if they're so careless as they let their cabbage leaves go floating down the stream. So he starts to turn around and go back down the hill, when suddenly he notices there's a monk racing down the hillside to catch up to that cabbage leaf and take it back to the kitchen. And then he realizes, this must be a great place to practice. Nothing is wasted. Or as Dogen would say in the Zendo Wall, all things exist in enlightenment, even the lowly cabbage leaf. But the story could be a little misleading, I think, because I don't think that Zendo just means gung-ho, 20-something-year-old energy, lots of testosterone, racing up and down the mountain. Zendo just means fully engaged. And Dogen gives us some examples of this in the text. So we get the example of the first cook who he talks to when he's in China. It's an elderly man. He's 68 years old, and Dogen sees him out in the patio under the burning sun, and he's bent over drying mushrooms in the patio. And he describes him very vividly. He says he's got these big, white, bushy, shaggy eyebrows, and he's bent over, moving his mushrooms around. His back is like a bow, like the bow of a bow and arrow. And he's, I imagine him just going about his work very slowly, carefully, making a lot of really exerting himself. The point isn't just that this old guy, he's still tough. He's still, out there doing manual labor. What's really moving about the example is that this Tenzo, who's one of the most accomplished practitioners in the whole community, is still making this kind of effort. And this is the way that he expresses and accomplishes the way. Just drying these mushrooms under the hot sun. And he gives us a second example, another Tenzo whom he meets in China. Dogen's just arrived on the boat, and this Tenzo shows up, and he's walked from 14 miles to purchase some mushrooms in the local market. And Dogen engages him in conversation, and the cook has just come to buy these mushrooms because he wants to make a wholesome meal for his community. And this is his wholehearted endeavor. This is the way he expresses and accomplishes the way, walking 14 miles to buy a few mushrooms so he can make a better meal for his community. And he's got undivided attention. Dogen is so happy to meet him. He wants to chat with him. He invites him to stay over, spend the night with him, and the guy says, sorry, I can't be waylaid here, and if you want to talk, come visit me sometime. But he's not going to be distracted. His attention is undivided on his task. There are also counterexamples. So Dogen, when he goes back to Japan after a training in China, he goes to these Dharma centers and he observes what's going on in the kitchen, and he's really dismayed by what he sees. Because the head cooks, they basically give the job over to their helpers, and then they go off and lounge around and shoot the breeze with other folks in the community. This is not what it's about for Dogen. This is not Bendo. They're missing the wholehearted practice. So, on this retreat, what would wholehearted practice look like for you? In your service position, what would wholehearted practice be for you? With your samu work assignment, what would wholehearted practice look like for you? When you're doing zazen and you're cold, or your knees hurt, or your back hurts, what is wholehearted practice in that moment? If you're practicing at home, you're preparing a meal, you're eating your meal, you're cleaning your dishes afterwards, what is wholehearted practice for you? So what Dogen's telling us is that wholehearted practice is itself accomplishment of the way. Accomplishment of the way is manifest through wholehearted practice. So that's the first point. Let's look at our passage again. From ancient times, he says, the position of a tenzo has been assigned to senior monks who have the way-seeking mind, eminent persons who have aroused the thought of awakening. In general, the job of cook involves wholehearted pursuit of the way. If one lacks the way-seeking mind, it will be nothing but a vain struggle and hardship without benefit in the end. The rules of purity for Chan Monastery says one should maintain a way-seeking mind, make adjustments in accord with the occasion, and see to it that the Great Assembly receive what is necessary and is at ease. Okay. So, the second point that I wanted to get to is he talks about in two different ways. So he talks about, and it depends on how this is translated too. So what I just read you talks about the way-seeking mind, which can also be translated as the mind of awakening. Sorry, the way-seeking mind can also be translated as the mind of the way. The mind of the way, or the way-seeking mind. And the term for this is doshin. So do is the same do, it's Tao, it's the way, and shin is mind, okay, or thought. So doshin is mind of the way or way-seeking mind. And then the other term that he uses is the mind of awakening, the thought of awakening, or arousing the aspiration to awaken. So again, the mind of awakening or the arousing the aspiration to wake up. And the term for this is Bodai Shin, is the mind of awakening. Shin is mind, and Bo is awakening or Buddha mind. Bodai Shin. And he also talks about Hotsu Bodai Shin, which means arousing that mind of Buddha. And then Hotsu Bodaishin can also just be condensed into Hoshin. Okay, so we've got Doshin and Hoshin. They're actually basically the same thing. They're synonyms for the same thing. And what is significant is that the energy of seeking the way or arousing aspiration to awaken are themselves the expression of the way, are themselves the expression of awakening. Seeking and arousing are themselves the way and awakening. So again, it's our engaged effort to accomplish the way that actually accomplishes the way. And I think that everyone here has that way-seeking mind. Everyone here has aroused the aspiration to awaken, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. In this chilly Zendo in the morning, you wouldn't have a practice that you follow or try to follow. It's because you have that way-seeking mind, you have that aspiration. So what does that look like in your own case? You can reflect on that. Just getting to the Zendo on time may be accomplishing the mind of the way. When you're sitting there and the thoughts are churning away, and then all of a sudden you stop and you come back to your breath, and what's actually happening right now, you are arousing the aspiration to awaken, and you are awake. You are awake. So we get this in the text when Dogen is having a conversation with the second cook. He's asking him these questions, and the cook says, "You clearly don't understand what practice is." And Dogen says, "Well, what is practice?" And the Tenzo says to him, if you really engage with this question, if you penetrate this question, you will be a man of the way. And I think what he's doing is he's pointing out to Dogen that very sincere questioning of practice is itself practice. In seeking the way, arousing the aspiration to wake up, in that moment, in asking his question, what is practice? Dogen is living the way, and Dogen is awake. Our own questioning is practice. Great faith, great doubt, great perseverance, great questioning. But Dogen didn't understand the cook when he told him this. And so he later re-encountered him, and he asked him again, very sincerely, what is practice? And the Tenzo says to him, nothing is hidden. So the answer to Dogen's question is right there. The answer to his question is in his very question. It's in his exchange with the Tenzo. And again, we see that practice and questioning are waking up, are awakening. They're one and the same. Practice and awakening are one and the same. And this time the answer sank in for Dogen, and he later came across a poem that expressed what he finally realized. And the poem reads, as night advances, a bright moon illuminates the whole ocean. The dragon's jewels are found in every wave. Looking for the moon, it is here, in this wave, in the next. At another point in the text, Dogen says, put your mind of the way to work. Putting it to work is the functioning of the enlightened mind. So chase down that leaf. Flip over the drying mushrooms. Sewing that piece of fabric with Myoko. Stay present. Come back to your breath. Even when Zazen seems incredibly tedious, you're uncomfortable, you're going through a difficult time emotionally. When you're present to your experience, fully present to your experience, the enlightened mind is activated. And then a final line from Dogen, which I hadn't ever noticed before but really love. He says, "Those who've come before us have said, the way-seeking mind of a Tenzo is actualized by rolling up your sleeves." Of course, for them, it would be tying back your sleeves, but we say rolling up our sleeves. And in English, when we say rolling up our sleeves, we think about that as something we do in order to get to work. But Dogen's saying that rolling up our sleeves is itself the work. Rolling up our sleeves is itself practice. Rolling up the sleeves is itself actualization. So we're just getting started on this retreat, so let's roll up our sleeves. And rolling up our sleeves, we are already in the way together, and we are already awakening together. Thank you. Shen beings are